Now, 150 years ago, anatomists described very, very carefully. Here is a model of a wall of the gut. I took the three elements: stomach, small intestine, colon. And within this structure, you see these two pinkish layers, which are actually the muscle. And between this muscle, they found nervous tissues, a lot of nervous tissues, which penetrate actually the muscle, penetrate the submucosa, where you have all the elements for the immune system. The gut is actually the largest immune system, defending your body. It penetrates the mucosa. This is a layer which actually touches the food you are swallowing and you digest, which is actually in the lumen. Now, if you think about the gut is, when you could stretch it, 14 meters long, the length of a tennis court. If you could unroll it, get out all the folds and so on, it would have 400 square meters of surface. And how this brain takes care for this, to moving it with the muscles and to defend the surface. And of course, digest our food we cook. So, if we give you a specification, this brain, which is autonomous, has 500 million nerve cells, 100 million neurons, so around the size of a cat brain. So there sleeps a little cat, okay? Thinks for itself, optimizes what Heribert digests. It has 20 different neurons types. So the same diversity you find actually in our big brain, where you have 100 billion neurons. It is autonomous, organized in microcircuits. It has these programs which run. It senses the food. It knows exactly what to do. It senses it by chemical means, very importantly by mechanical means, because it has to move the food. It has to mix all the various elements which we need for digestion. This control of muscle is very, very important because, you know, there can be reflexes. If you don't like a food, especially if you're a child, you gag. It's this brain which makes this reflex. And then finally, it controls also the secretion of this molecular machinery which actually digests the food we cook. Now, how do the two brains work with each other? I took here a model from robotics. It's called the subsumption architecture. What it means is that we have a layered control system. The lower layer, our gut brain, has its own goals, digestion, defense, and we have the higher brain with its goal of integration and generating behaviors. Now both look, and this is the blue arrow, both look to the same food which is in the lumen, in the area of your intestine. The big brain integrates signals which come from the running programs of the lower brain, but subsumption means that the higher brain can interfere with the lower. It can replace or it can inhibit, actually, signals. So if we take two types of signals, a hunger signal, for example, if you have an empty stomach, your stomach produces a hormone called ghrelin. It's a very big signal. It's sent to the brain and say, go and eat. You have stop signals. We have up to 8 stop signals. At least in my case, they are not listened to. Okay? So what happened? If the big brain in the integration overrides this signal. So if you override the hunger signal, you can have a disorder which is called anorexia. Despite of generating a healthy hunger signal, the big brain ignores it and activates different programs in the gut. The more usual case is overeating. It actually takes the signal and changes it, and we continue. Even our 8 signals would say, stop, enough, we have transferred enough energy. Now the interesting thing is that along this lower layer, this gut, the signal becomes stronger and stronger if undigested but digestible material could penetrate. This we found from bariatric surgery, that then the signal will be very, very high. So now back to the cooking question and back to the design. We have learned to talk to the big brain, taste and reward, as you know. Now what would be the language we have to talk to the gut brain that its signals are so strong that the big brain cannot ignore it? That we would generate something all of us would like to have, a balance between the hunger and the satiation. Now I give you from our research a very short glimpse. This is fat digestion. You have on your left an olive oil droplet. And this olive oil droplet gets attacked by enzyme. This is an in vitro experiment. It's very difficult to work in the intestine. Now, everyone would expect that when the degradation of the oil happens, when the constituents are liberated, they disappear, they go away because they absorb. Actually, what happens is that a very intricate structure appears, and I hope you can see that there are some ring-like structures in the middle image, which is water. This whole system generates a huge surface to allow more enzyme to attack the remaining oil. And finally, on your right side, you see a bubbly, cell-like structure appearing from which the body will absorb the fat. Now, if we could take this language, and this is a language of structures, and make it longer lasting, that it can go through the passage of the intestine, we would generate stronger signals. So our research, and I think the research also at the universities, are now fixing on these points to say, how can we actually, and this might sound trivial now to you, how can we change cooking? How can we cook that we have this language developed? So what we have actually, it's not an omnivorous dilemma. We have a cognivorous opportunity, because we have learned over the last 2 million years, with taste and reward, quite sophisticated to cook, to please ourselves, to satisfy ourselves. If we add the matrix, if we add the structured language, which we have to learn, when we learn it, that we can put it back, and around energy, we could generate a balance, which comes out from our really primordial operation, cooking. So, to make cooking really a very important element, I would say even philosophers have to change and have to finally recognize that cooking is what made us. So I would say, coco ergo sum. I cook, and therefore I am. Thank you very much.